Hello guys, thank you for your support under the previous video with the review of this new kit with an enormous amount of views and subs. So I decided to interrupt our series with a Panzer 38 build, well, at least on one or two videos, and today we try to do something with Zero Interceptor in 1/38 scale from Eduard, fresh model. Okay, check that video if you want to receive more information about this kit. And it will be my first, both the model in 1/38 scale and model with the colorized photo-etched parts. So I talk with one modeling expert in this field and he gave me an advice. First, to assemble all plastic details of interior, paint them and in the end put colorized parts on their places. And I agreed with that statement. Okay, let's start to do something to build this project from the very beginning, slowly, step by step. So I prepare fuselage parts first of all and small details of the cabin. By the way, let's try to connect two parts of fuselage together, and it seems that connection in this kit, well, on the good level, at least in most visible parts of the plane. Cool, I like it. First step is to removing plastic details from small parts for non-Profi Pack Edition. So in non-Profi Pack Edition of this kit you have to paint these details or put decals on them, but in our case we have to remove all excess plastic accordingly to instruction and later to replace them with heavy metal, yes. Have to be careful with that. After that I can glue prepared details on their places, and here's the right part. It completed on this stage, and the same situation on opposite part. Excellent and precise connection. And yes, that's all for the first step. I have counted colorized photo-etched parts that have to be placed here later, and it seems 12 details. Pilot seat has a very interesting construction. I glued here brackets. I use here more powerful and more strengthful Tamiya's glue. It's a little bit better than this one of Mr. Cement. After that put a seat on brackets, so it is like a seat in the air. Cool, and I divide one photo-etched part as the first one. Why? Because it have to be painted in interior green color with the whole interior, so try to bend it. Oh, extra carefulness and patience needed to use here, so I use my paper crafting skills and here's the result. Don't ask me how I bended the detail and put it there. Answer is just somehow. Okay, let's try to connect these parts together. Okay, good. Seat have to be painted in interior green, but the bulkhead from the opposite side in a blue-green. Okay, we worked with the plastic, with metal, and let's try to do something with another stuff. A rear part of the pilot's cabin. Here I put transparent detail from in-box parts. I'm not sure that ordinary glue for plastic is a good solution for transparent parts, but let's try to find out. And it seems okay, at least now. Then modeling painting masks from the box, nothing difficult here, use knife and tweezers and precisely put mask on the transparent detail from the both sides of it. Rear part completed, here different controlling elements, but the pedals are waiting for photo-etched parts. And side parts of the cabin. Interior, just remove some details here on this detail, and I have to put a panel here and looks on this cool relief and high detalization of it, but I have to remove all of this beautiful stuff. A little bit painful, but I'm okay, thank you. I use here shaving blade, dangerous tool, but in such a situation, if you're skillful, it helps a lot, so be careful and don't try to do it in real life. So for this time I prepared all interior parts of the cabin. They are separated for groups that can be easily and comfortable in painting. I prepared them for painting, and actually not so many work was there with this stuff, but we just started. Okay, front machine guns, so we have to drill holes in the barrels. So for this purpose I make a small mark in the middle of the barrel using knife, and then drill the holes with a small drills. Actually I use 2 or 3 small drills, from smaller diameter to bigger one, and the aim is to achieve as close to the real diameter hole as possible. Before we start painting interior, let's work a little bit with rear part of the wings, because here will be some of the colors that we have in the cabin. Apply some details for chassis bay. Okay, what about painting? When everything prepared for painting process, I mean details put on toothpicks and all of this stuff degrease, I add primer as a first layer. It's a black primer from Vallejo. I cover all the parts of interior in fuselage, on wings and all small details for interior. Second layer is a base color. I use for this purpose olive green. I show you all the bottles that I used a little bit later. So green color have to be as close to the green colorized photoetched parts as possible. After everything were painted in a green color, I add some masks and add one more basic layer, this time the blue one. Okay, what the first results? So here is the primer that I used from Vallejo's, then olive green from ICM and a mix of blue tones. If we look at our parts, they look cool. A good green color, blue maybe not so good and not so historically accurate as a real blue color. It have to be a little bit lighter and it have to be metallic, but the blue parts of our model wouldn't be visible, so that's not a problem. All these primers and paints is water-based, so I thinned all of them with the Vallejo's acrylic thinner. Before I cover everything here in a gloss coat for washing process, I need to paint these 4 small balloons. After that I can put at least one of them on this place, on the wings. What next? All previous surfaces were covered in a gloss varnish from Vallejo's, and I started the process of washing. That means I want to highlight all of the relief of our interior. Typical process, the same as I use in the work with armored vehicles in 1/35 scale. After that, protected all work with a matte varnish. And finally it is time to add metallic colorized parts from this plate. What I can say about these photoetched parts after the first steps, it's very thin, so you can easily bend these metallic parts. Details looks cool, but they are very small, so extra patience and carefulness is needed here. Instruction is good, but in some single cases I'm not sure that I put details in 100% correctly on their places. But in general everything have to be okay. Also some details smaller than their plastic frames, like here. And of course I add here some mistakes from myself. These 2 panels only for C, D and E painting options for this model, while I want to paint mine plain in A marking option, so these details have to be removed, but I decided that I don't want to rebuild and repaint this interior section, so I leave them here. If you ask me how to assemble double parts like this panel with different gadgets and buttons, well, as all other metallic details, apply extra small drops of super glue gel and trying in one attempt to gather both these parts together using tweezers. After that this panel will be glued on its plastic frame. And some of additional details on that panel. They are extremely small, but it's okay. Few words about our cockpit. Here we can see many colorized parts, and the last one is the biggest. It's a doubled part. As usual, extra small drops of glue, and then this metallic part I put on its place, and knives U as a price for our previous job, for our work. Smaller sections completed, so we can assemble them together. I also add here seat belts from the inbox details and pedals. Looks good. So I decided to connect these parts with a super glue in the form of gel. And even all of these parts is painted, the level of connection is still good. And the final section is 2 machine guns. That means that the whole most hard work on the interior of this kit is completed. I'm glad for that, because it wasn't very difficult, it was interesting, and we reached a beautiful result. So let's make a short summary for today's video. All work for today is on my table. Interior parts on the wings. Looks interesting. We finish wings and fuselage parts in the next video. Fuselage parts and the main diamond here, pilot's cabin with all small details. Good detalization, good level of details connection in this kit. I try to put these parts into the fuselage and it fits okay. There will be no problems with the connection. Okay, let's try do it right now. Put this stuff together without glue. And yes, not of these beautiful details will be visible in the end, special blue parts, and also the entrance to the cabin is narrow, well, because it's a one-engined interceptor, but the model is still cool, and I'm glad that I started this project. Next steps will be easier. I want in next video to assemble exterior parts, wings, flaps, engine and so on. Well, as many parts as possible to glue in 1 week. Okay, thank you for today's watching. I hope you enjoy this build. Thank you for your support, good luck and bye.